If you want to be able to use text modifiers in your next project, you are in the right place. Hi, I'm Paul Duplessis and welcome to Pipeline. If you want to work on this file with me, make sure to grab the work files in the description below. So here we are inside of Rive, and as you can see there are two categories. The ones with the purple background is going to be what we are going to discuss in this video, and the ones in the orange background, that is what we are going to discuss in the next video. So how this is going to work, we have an example above the artboard that we are going to work in, and then we are going to recreate what we see here. So as an example, let's see here. So you can see this is an intro to modifiers, and then we're going to recreate that, and then also going to recreate this one. This text overshoots, and let's just go to next week's. Let's go ahead to the next video's animation, and this text glitches, and then this text flips. So let's start with the intro to modifiers, and let's just select our text layer there, and you're just going to come down, and on the right hand side you'll see there is a text modifiers option. You're just going to click on that, and let's just rename this one intro to mods. Let's just call it that for now. And right now we're not going to focus on the range elements just now, or the range properties. We're just going to focus on the transform properties inside the text modifiers, and how are we going to make a inside the modifiers. So let's just come here, and as you can see, if you press on that plus button, you can create a opacity, origin, position, rotation, or scale element or property, and then also you can make a weight or slant, and we'll be focusing on most of those in this animation. We're not going to focus on making another range property. All that is going to do is going to make another range underneath this one. And if you press the plus on the top, it's going to make a completely new modifier that builds on the first one. As you can see there, it made a new one. Not just a new range, but you can make more new. It stacks on the previous one. So we're not going to focus on the range properties just for now. We're going to be dealing with those in the next artboards, next animations. And for now, we're just going to focus on the basics of the transform properties inside the text modifiers. And but before we start with that, if you look at this, each letter, you can see there's a little dot underneath them, and that is the origin point of each of them. If you see, if I add an origin to this modifier and move it around, you can see that the dots actually move as well, and you can see there. So if you're not familiar with origins, let me just quickly give you a brief, just a quick example. I'm going to make just a center around that, make this white. So as you can see right now, the anchor point or origin point is in the middle, exactly in the middle of the square, making it a nice rotation there. But as soon as you if you press Y, and you're on the freeze active. Now let's move the origin point or the anchor point to the right top of the square. Let's just press Y again, and now you'll see it starts rotating around that origin point, that anchor point. And we can continue doing this. Continue doing this. Move it to this side, to the left center, and just press enter. And now you see it rotates around that point. It's the anchor point. Everything moves around that area. So it's important to understand that when working with the origins in the modifiers. And what's cool about modifiers is each letter has its own origin point. So with knowing that now, you can see here, it moves. If I move the origin here on the x-axis, you can see it moves to the left. And I move it on the y-axis, you can see it moves up. Now, where this is getting interesting is if I add a rotation now, as we did with the square, and let's rotate it inside the text modifier area. And now you can see it doesn't rotate in its own middle or its own. It doesn't rotate around itself, but it rotates around that that origin point we set for it. If you remove all these keyframes, make it 0 again, now you can see it actually moves around that origin point over there. If we actually move the origin to the middle, let's just make sure that's in the middle, roughly there. Now you can see it rotates around that. So that's really crucial to understand this when you're going to work with scale and even rotation in the text modifiers. Just remove this. Let's just add a scale just so we can get the same understanding. So as you can see here, now it scales from the origin point. If we do the X scaling, it scales from that area. But if we move the origin point to this side, it's going to start scaling from that area. You see there, and now it actually moves its position, or it seems like it's moving its position. So you can really manipulate the effect you want with your text. So it's just giving you an overview of how this works, and now we can start. So let's just start with position. We're gonna make a position, and let's keyframe it. So we want this to end in this position, and let's just move this to 1 second mark, and then let's just move this down a little bit. Oh, before I do that, it's important to note you may be so used to moving it over here and thinking, okay, now it's going to go up, but now you actually moved it in the actual transform properties of the layer and not in the modifiers itself. So you can see there's no position keyframe made here, but there's one over there. So let's just go ahead and remove this. It's just you might be running into that problem. So just to be aware of that, just make your keyframes over here. Don't try and pull it over here. It's going to affect the layer, not the modifier. Okay, let's just go here. So we set a position keyframe on this area, and let's just move it down here. So now we just have a basic position keyframe from going down to the middle again. And let's just come here now, and oh, you see it now created a new modifier. We want to add a rotation. We're just going to come to the end again, and let's drop this down so we can see everything. We want it to end in this rotation. So now let's okay, let's just choose this side for now. Just make this 90. Let's just see what happens. Actually, I want it to go to the other side, from the other side. Okay, so it really is. It's not looking really nice. We'll work with the timing in just a second. See if we're going to go for this effect, sort of. Okay, so let's just remove the easing for now. I think just make it a little bit faster. And now let's add a little bit of, just see the modifier. Let's come here, add a little bit of weight, and let's just see what's happening there. I want it to start really thin, and then go to the max thickness, to the max weight. So you can see that starts thin, going thick. But before we do that, I actually don't want to do that right now. Okay, so let's just focus on this animation for now. We also want to add, okay, so let's add a opacity, because we want it to come from not visible to visible. So I'm just going to come here and add a opacity keyframe, put it over here, and also come here and make it 0%. Now I can see there's a it's getting better. So let's just start playing with the timing as well. And I want most of the movement to be done before it starts appearing. So let's just move this opacity a little bit. And you'll see why I want to do that in a second. And it's just personal preference. And this is how it looks. If we put some easy ease on it, it already looks much better. But I want it to like jump in and then go really slow at the end. So how we're going to achieve that is we're just going to pull this up here and exaggerate this a bit. And now you'll see there's a, oh, that's way too much. Let's just keep this on 1 second. There's a lot of fiddling to get the animation you want. I actually think this is a bit too much. Exaggerate this a little bit less. And maybe a little bit more. There we go. Actually like that. And this can stay linear. The reason I like to offset it a little bit is just so that we can skip that first harsh, fast movement and get it into that smooth area. So, and now we're just going to come to the properties again and add a little bit of, okay, I already added the weight and also slant. So if you're not familiar with slant, it's just making an italic basically. So it just skews it up a little bit. So let's just come here and I want to keep it on this. Let's just remove this opacity for now so we can see what's going on. So we want to make the weight the smallest it can be. Just make it 0, and you can see it's really thin. And then it's going to come. We're going to come to the end of this. We come to the end of the second, and let's make the weight as thick as possible. Thick as possible, and we're also going to slant it a little bit. So I can see it happens linearly. It happens gradually, but I wanted to like move up and then thicken and slant. So how are we going to achieve that? The movement of the rotation in position happens most of the animations happens at the beginning and just slows down. But I want the slant and weight to reach its fastest moment in the middle. You'll see how I do that. So it's basically this. I'm just going to exaggerate it. And let's just see what that looks like. So maybe I can exaggerate the rotation and position a little bit more. There we go. Now I really like that. And let's just, now that we're happy with all the animation, I think it's better to put the opacity at the end. So let's just check here and make the opacity 0. And as you can see, that is actually quite nice. And you could actually just put a little bit of easing on the opacity, just like that. So it's visible from the start. There we go. So you just made your first text animation using modifiers. And we actually made quite a nice animation without even touching the range properties. So this is just the power of text modifiers if you only want to use the transform properties, if I can call it that. And I'm actually quite enjoying this. Okay, so let's continue to the next one. And this text overshoots. So now we're going to go into the range properties, the one I skipped earlier. Let's just check this one again. As you can see, there's like a wave animation happening here. And that is just using text modifiers. Okay, so let's just come here. Remember to click on the text layer, and then you'll see this panel over here. And then we're only going to focus on text modifiers. Okay, so if we look at this first, if we look at the example, you can see there's a little bit of opacity, like it goes from invisible to visible, and then the only thing actually animating is the only other property animating is the position. So we're only going to focus on position over here to get that overshoot. Okay, so just make sure your text is selected or your layer is selected. You're going to come here and make a new modifier. And let's just call this one position 01. So, and you call it position 01 because you're going to be making another modifier underneath it to get that desired effect. And the difference between this modifier and the previous one is that we're going to be we're still going to be using a position, but we're only going to make one keyframe. In the previous one, we made a keyframe where we wanted to start and a keyframe where we wanted to end. But when we use the range properties, we're only going to make one keyframe from where we want it to start, and the range will take care of the rest to return it to the original value. So in this case, we wanted to start from the middle, and let's just come down here again, and we're going to move it to our desired starting point. So just recapping, you're not setting 2 keyframes for where you want it to go. You're only setting a keyframe from where you want it to start. It's just crucial to understand that. And now we're going to jump into the range areas. So in this modifier, you can see there's a blue highlighted area, and that is where the range is set. So it's affecting everything at the moment. As soon as we start moving the range in its percentage, let's put it on 50%, and now you can see it's only affecting 50%. So the 50% that is affected, it's still set in the original, or in the set position. And that's also crucial to understand. So now you can see the range is where is the highlighted area. And let's just come to the fall off. Let's just crank this up to 100. And now you can see the effect this is going to give. So the fall off, you can see this is still highlighted, but it's not as strong as this area. The area that is still the darker blue, or the solid, yeah, the darker blue, that is still 100% affected on the position we set over here. But this area, this is less strong. So it's almost interpolated between the original position and the set position. And if we start manipulating this, we can get a quite a nice effect. Just to explain the fall off, I'm just going to remove this and make this a little bit smaller. So fall off just moves the range and the fall off as you move its percentage. So if you move it to -100 and then move it over to let's say 0, you can actually get an animation also with that. So let's just set it over here, move it down to 1 second and do this. Now you can see not a really nice animation, but it's just to understand how the fall off works. And so that just moves the affected area. But we're going to start and make a keyframe on 0 on the fall, or on the range, and just crank this up to 100. Okay, so let's just see here. Now we can see this text overshoots, and so you can see there's a little bit of a jitter between going over this to the next word text and the overshoot, because it actually affects the space between text as well, this and text. So let's just remove that area that it uses the spaces. You can see here there's an option that says exclude spaces, and now it will jump directly to text and not interpolate on the space as well. And that's much better. So, and now we're gonna we want that effect of the wavy effect, and we're gonna come here, make a keyframe on fall off, and then just come to the end and make this 100. And now you would expect it to give you that wave effect, but as you'll see, it stays exactly the same. And that's because we put them on top of each other. So let's just go to the range, and you might want to, all right, so you might want to come here and offset the fall off and move it a little bit to the right, but it doesn't work. So what you need to do is you come to the range, move it a little bit to your right, offset it a little bit, and there you see, now we get the desired effect. So this is still not perfect, but let's just see here. Let's put a little bit of interpolation, or yeah, interpolation on here, and that's a little bit better already. And yeah, there we go. So I'm not going to overthink this too much. Actually quite happy with that. But also we wanted to start from invisible and going visible. So let's just go here and so this is also important to understand. As soon as you put anything, add anything here, the range is going to affect the properties you selected on top. So as soon as I put the opacity to 0, you can see nothing happens. And let's just invert that quickly. And then there it goes from invisible to visible, from 0 opacity to 100% opacity. And you can see you didn't have to set another keyframe for the opacity because everything in the range affected the properties you set. And that's the powers of text. That's the power of text modifiers. And you can see, boom. All right, so and let's just say put something else here. You can see now I can put a rotation on, crank that rotation to 260, and then you get something like that. And you don't have to do anything else to the range property because you already set it up for the effect you want. And now it's going to affect everything in the rotation position and the opacity, whatever you set there. But we don't want the rotation now. So let's go ahead and do that. So we are quite happy with that. And now we're going to come and make another modifier. So we're going to build on the first modifier that we set. So let's just come here and we're going to call this one position 2. So for now, I'm just going to hide this one so that we can see what we are doing with the position 02. So again, we want to affect the position. So we're going to come here. So essentially now we're going to be animating the overshoot. So what we want to do is, the first one is, let's just see it here. It comes from down here and it just goes up into position. But what we want is we want each letter to go up a little bit and then go down again. And that's why we're going to use another modifier. And this is where we're going to do it. So the same thing, we're going to think of this as 2 different parts. And we're just going to move the position and exaggerate it for now so we can see what happens when it goes from up to down, or from this position to the set original position. And let's start. So we're going to start with range again, right? And we're going to also set the fall off from 0. And we're just going to come to the end of this animation, make this 100, make this 100. And now remember, we go to this position area, the range, and you want to make this, to offset this range a little bit. And then you can see you have this effect as well. So let's just come here, interpolate a little bit. So now you can just come around and play with the offset. We don't want to make it the offset too much. That looks better as, oh, remember? Okay. So if we look at this, you can see it doesn't look too nice. So we just have to remember come here and exclude the spaces. Let's just check that out. It looks better already, but I'm not quite happy with that. Let's just move this further away. Oh, that's much better. So just play around with the offset until you are happy. So if you bring it closer, you'll see the effect is quite chunky. If we move it further away, you can see it's smoother. There we go, and that's what we're looking for. Now we're not going to put an opacity here because we already put it to the original text modifier. And okay, so let's unhide this position 01 and let's see what we made. Ooh, so you can see there's a little bit of a overshoot happening, but it's not exactly what we want. And just as we did with the fall off and the range, we need to offset position, the position 01 text modifier and the position 02 text modifier. So we're going to come here and make sure. Let's just see why those keyframes are so close to each other. Oh, that's interesting. And make sure I select both. There we go. Great. So we want to offset the position 02 from the position 01, so because otherwise they are perfectly overlaid with each other and they're going to cancel each other out as well, in a sense, not completely. But we want the position 02 modifier to happen after the first movement. So it goes up to the second modifier and then goes down to the original position. Let's just check this out. And there we go. We have an overshoot. Hey. And let's just make sure we have the same keyframes here. Let's just see what happens if we do that. Eesh, that's horrible. You can just play around with the interpolation. And I don't like that too much. Let's just keep it easy in, easy out. And you're going to come here and you can also make this This is the fall of interpolation, and let's just work over there. There we go. So I don't like this too much, and remember we exaggerated the overshoot, so we can always come back and let's just hide this first one again. I don't want the overshoot to be that much. I only want it to, you can see that line, that's the original position of the text, but I only wanted to overshoot a little bit because we exaggerated it just to see the effect, but we want to come here and do it over there. And also now you can come with the fall off again, just fiddle over here. Want to make this fall off a little bit smaller. This offsets, I mean. Oh no. There we go. Let's just see. Let's put on the positioner 1 again. There we go. You have a little bit of an overshoot, and now you can just come and, if you want to make the overshoot a little bit more, lift that up. Actually need to go to range or 2, positioner 2. Just make it there. There we go. Okay, and that's it for this text overshoots. And that is it for this video. If you have any feedback, you're welcome to share that in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one.